scenes in the movie that I kept waiting
This meeting is being recorded.
I kept waiting for it to cut off, and it just felt like they were all so long, which does have that effect. And 2, embracing ugly. It says, what is more annoying than an intense action sequence from which a hero emerges with no hair out of place? Leonardo DiCaprio's complete hot messiness in The Revenant reminds us that a little grit can be a visual cue to a character's inner state and help viewers get drawn into a moment of empathy without the filter of perfection standing between us and the protagonist. The main characters were Leonardo DiCaprio playing Hugh Glass, which we've seen as Jack Dawson in the Titanic. Tom Hardy playing John Fitzgerald, the bad guy. He also played Eddie Brock in Venom movie. Forrest Goodluck, who played Hawk, Glass's son. He also played James Lightfoot in Cherry. I think that's like a new movie that just came out last year. And Will Poulter, who played Bridger, who was also in The Maze Runner. And then I felt like I needed to include Domhnall Gleeson, who played Captain Andrew Henry, Paul Anderson, who played one of the other the men in the Trappers. Grace Dove, they didn't give her a name, which I thought was weird. It never mentioned her name and I couldn't find it online, but she was Hugh's wife that passed. And Arthur Red Cloud that played Hickok, I think is how you pronounce it. The movie was set in 1823 in the untamed and unforgiving wilderness of midwinter, snow-capped Missouri. The plot, this is basically describing the whole entire movie, but I'm going to read it. The experienced 19th century tracker Hugh Glass and his son Hawk lead a hunting and trapping expedition in the uncharted territory of the fierce Indian tribe Arikara. I think that's how you say that. As the party of trappers struggle to navigate back to the distant Fort Kiowa, a swift and devastating attack by a formidable grizzly bear leaves a brutally mauled Glass on the brink of death, double-crossed and abandoned by his men. Now only Hugh's rabid desire to live can help him survive the piercing cold and the grave dangers in one of the world's most inhospitable environments, giving him the strength to drag his unrecognizable carcass and exact his revenge. Some themes in the movie, I feel like all these were pretty obvious. Family as a driving power. Hugh is driven by his dead wife and son. There are numerous times in which Hugh dreams or has visions about his wife. He always sees her above or in front of him, metaphorically guiding the way and being a reason for him to move forward. Greed, racism, and generalization, I put those all in one. They all are pretty much Fitzgerald, and his greed for money driving him to do despicable things, and his hate towards all Native Americans for what they did to him. Endurance and survival, revenge, and man versus nature or man versus wild, because it was, like him versus the bear and him versus the cold in the winter, and it's like everything was against him. He couldn't really get a break. I put a lot of scenes in here, and I actually had to take some out because I just felt like they were all so important. But and I gave them all titles, so I'll quickly tell you like the scenes that I'm talking about. As soon as the movie starts, the one where the opening scene where he's with his wife and his son, it's kind of giving you like a background to when Hawk was very young and his wife was still alive. Then the first attack from the Arikara warriors, whenever they all had to leave and go get on the boat. And then of course the bear attack, the mama grizzly, that felt like it lasted forever. That was very disturbing. And then skipped to where Fitz was going to kill Glass, and that's when he ended up killing Hawk, and they left him to die. And then the next thing that I have is where they left. I felt really sorry for Bridger. One of my questions later is if anybody had sympathy for him and felt like he done what he thought he needed to do, or if he should have stayed. And then whenever they finally made it back, Fitz tells him, "We done what we have to do. Don't go down there and grow no conscience." He doesn't want him to tell anybody what happened. And then another very hard scene to watch. The girl, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, that was being raped in Glass, had to get the guy off of her. And I don't think this is like a key scene. It was just a short part, but it really caught me off guard where he gutted the horse that they had shot with an arrow, and he got inside of it to sleep. When they went out to find him, and they found him and brought him back. And the last scene, the fight scene between Hugh and Fitz. This is just some behind the scenes information that I found in an article. I meant to put the link at the bottom, but I forgot. But Leonardo DiCaprio told Yahoo this was a film that had been floating around for quite some time, but nobody was crazy enough to really take this on, simply because of the logistics of where we needed to shoot and the amount of work and rehearsal that would have to be done. The director says, "I always know what the character needs, and it's scary sometimes for actors or actresses, but I try to help them to use their fear to get there." He also did not use green screens at all. So none of the backgrounds or anything in the movie is a green screen. He brought his production team to places like Argentina, where temperatures were really that cold, negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. The production lasted for 9 months, and in that one part, DiCaprio actually ate raw bison liver for that scene. I thought that was disgusting. And this is the last one. These are just discussion questions. I don't know if you want me to go like one by one and discuss them.
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay. This one, I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer. I have a theory, but why does Hugh Glass look directly into the camera at the very end of the movie? I thought that was weird because that wasn't a thing that they were doing throughout the whole movie, like they do in some TV shows, like The Office. They'll look into the camera to be funny, but that really caught me off guard at the end when he looked right into the camera.
You guys have any hot takes here, especially that ending scene?
With that whole ending scene, especially towards like the end when he breathes and you hear that final breath, I think it was supposed to emphasize that he was dying and this was the last time you'll see him. Maybe, not really sure.
Yeah, I don't know if it meant anything. That's my only theory, that it could have been him possibly dying out there, him slowly breathe. You're hearing his last breaths, but I don't know. I don't really think there's too much major significance to it. Might have just been a close up of him hallucinating.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just kind of showing his last final seconds there.
Does anything happen to him in the fight with Fitzgerald that causes him to get wounded again?
Yeah, he does get stabbed in the hand, and I think he got hit a couple other times too.
He got stabbed in the leg too.
What'd you say, Sonny?
I said he got stabbed in the leg too.
Leg, yeah. We could probably make the argument that the whole movie's a fever dream. We could probably make that argument. After the bear attack, that is. I don't know if that argument holds any weight, but maybe we could.
Yeah, I don't think that's not really a theory I'd buy into. I definitely think it all happened.
Just saying, if he put me through all of that, him almost dying 20,000 times for it to be a fever dream, I'll never forgive him.
Yeah, I know. When I watched it for the first time, I looked it up just to see if it was actually a true story, and it said it was a little bit embellished for film. The fever dream thing kind of would hold some weight, in my opinion.
Okay, well, my next question is, what is the significance of the title, The Revenant? I looked it up, and the word revenant actually means a person who has returned, especially supposedly from the dead.
That makes sense because he should have died at least 12 times during that whole movie. Like falling off a cliff, going down the waterfall area, the bear. He should have been dead way before he was dead.
I agree with that.
Yeah, it's definitely a very solid title for the movie, considering everything that Glass goes through.
Shaylee agrees.
He also says, I didn't catch it the first time around until I looked up the definition of the word, but when I watched it the second time, whenever he gets back and he's wanting to go after Fitzgerald, he says to the guy, whenever he tells him, I'm not letting you leave again, you have to stay here. I think he was talking to the captain. He said, I ain't afraid to die anymore. I done it already.
That would make this whole thing kind of brings the first question back to mind. Like, what did they really kill him off at the end after he did survive all that? Was it just his quest for revenge that caused him to keep going?
If you kill my kid, and especially after like he went out of his way to save them multiple times, I will make sure that you're going to pay for your sins at the end. So I feel like it was revenge until he met that one native that saved him, treated him better than his own crew. He's like, revenge is not from me. It is from God. It'd be in his hands now, not mine. It's not exact quote, but I'm paraphrasing. But I feel like towards the end, that's the reason why he just kind of, it's like, I'm not going to kill you. I'm not going to be the one with blood in my hands. And he sends him on his way just to be brutalized one more time.
Yeah, you raise a good point there, Jaden. Like, he doesn't deliver the final death blow necessarily, because he doesn't really see himself as this like agent of revenge, kind of like how our last movie was.
I think it also put salt on the wound just because how much he hated the natives. Like, it only made sense for the natives to get the final blow.
Yeah, that was some sweet irony, wasn't it? I didn't think about that when I was watching it. But yeah, that is some pretty sweet. That is some pretty sweet comeuppance for him. What did you guys make of these performances in the movie? Especially, we'll get back to Taylor's questions here in a sec. What did you guys think of these performances, especially DiCaprio and Tom Hardy here?
They are fantastic. I love Leonardo DiCaprio. He's one of my favorite actors. And Tom Hardy, he'll always be iconic. And that was the first thing that stood out to me when I watched the theaters when it came out, was just how Leonardo DiCaprio is finally going to get that Oscar. It was just amazing.
I've never been much of a Leonardo guy. like I've never really liked, but this movie probably changed that for me, just with his expressions. Like he didn't need the words, his body language and his facial reactions was outstanding. And Tom Hardy, I didn't even recognize him. Like his voice was, the accent was on top, and it took me a few tries of like looking it up to make sure. I don't think this is him. That can't be Tom Hardy. And I love Tom Hardy, and it was just so hard to believe since he formed himself so much into that character.
Yeah, everyone in this movie did a fantastic job with their characters. They blended in into the story very well.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. Like you wouldn't know that was Tom Hardy unless you just went in knowing that it was him, right? Just because it just goes to show how good of an actor he is, that he can just kind of transform himself that way. Like he doesn't look anything like he looks like in Batman or in Venom, Mad Max, or any of the other movies he's been in the past several years. He doesn't look anything like he does in those.
I love Leonardo DiCaprio, so I thought he did amazing in this. It was really hard for me to watch the bear scene because it like he does it so good. You can like feel his pain a little bit. It's so good. I think he did such a good job.
Now you took us there, Shaylee. What did you guys think of that bear scene? I gave you a whole discussion question based on it. Several of you guys wrote about it.
I thought that scene was incredibly hard to watch. I thought, both DiCaprio and Hardy did a really good job with their characters. They really made you feel, just from the way that they looked and like the ice and the beard and when they were in the water and all of that. I thought they really made you feel like they were you felt that cold. But the part with the bear, like him, that was really, really hard to watch. And it was like right when you were just like, oh my goodness, like thinking that he couldn't take any more, and he finally makes it to his gun, and then the bear comes like right back after him. And just like the whole scene, it was just, I thought it was very hard to watch.
I would be lying if I didn't say I was screaming at the scene, just because I grew up with my older brother and my papa were caught one day with a bear chasing after going coon hunting. And the thing with a grizzly, you always have to pretend you're dead or you're going to be dead. Black bear, you make a lot of noise. So it screams like, pretend you're stinking dead. Just don't let him attack you anymore. If he thinks you're dead, he's not going to try to eat you. They don't like human meat. They're more of like a berries and fish type person. It was just yelling because it was very intense to watch.
Yeah, they pulled a little film magic doing that scene. I was reading up on it before class. They used CGI. That wasn't a real bear. So you can kind of imagine like this guy in a bear suit like crawling over Leonardo DiCaprio while they're trying to film it. You could probably even imagine how awkward that was.
Yeah, I can imagine like the scene where they fell down the hill and the bear was laying on top of him. I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah, that was just adding insult to injury, right? After the bear did all that other stuff to him, this big 800-pound bear just falls on top of you, right? So let's just add insult to injury here.
Yeah, I thought it was awful. Like he was looking and you saw the cubs, so you knew. It was just so suspenseful because you knew, like usually, I mean, that's just a dead giveaway. You see the cubs, you know there's a mom, like somewhere really close. And so he was kind of like looking through the woods and he sees the cubs, and then it's like wham, out of nowhere, like as soon as he turns around, I mean, he didn't have time, you know what I mean, like to do anything. And it was just like right on top of him, just like, I mean, just mauling him. And I was like, I mean, but the whole scene, I was like, oh gosh. And he just kept on and he would like kind of grab him. But you could almost see, like, even when the bear would like, just like grab like parts of his back, like you could see. And then like even his screams and like how he acted, I mean, he did a really good job playing that part, but it was very, very hard to watch.
Now our horror movie unit's coming up soon. I don't think you guys will see anything scarier than this in the horror movie unit.
Hereditary is pretty shocking at sometimes.
Yeah, this movie is like a complete contrast to all the other movies we watched in this category so far.
How so, Matt?
Well, man, there's a lot of stuff. Obviously, it's most of them usually set in like most of them have been set in like the desert and stuff like that.
Right.
And this one just takes place in the forest, and like those are a lot more those ones are a lot more tame than what's happened in this movie.
Was it you, Stacy, who wrote about how this was a different period of time compared to the other westerns, like an earlier period? Was that you?
I think so. I answered, I think it was question number 1 that I answered. To me, like I didn't feel, and which I've not watched a lot of westerns, but just kind of comparing it, I guess, to like the stereotypical, western that I have always associated westerns with, like, like the saloon, and there's like good guy, bad guy, and like cowboy hats, and kind of like the I guess kind of like desert type scene, and like there's dirt, and it seems like it's always like hot in those, and like they're sweating, and like it's like things like that. That was kind of how I guess like in my mind, like when I think of western, like that's what I think of, like sunsets and like different things like that. And there was horses in this one. I think I put that in the discussion question too, but it was almost like they were even different too. Like in just a typical western, in my mind, they just kind of saddle them up, and they're feeding them hay, and they just kind of like in the barn or stalls or just whatever, and they saddle them up and they kind of ride and different things. But in this one, it was almost like they seemed more wild, or more like they I don't know, like they would ride them and stuff. It was just like it seemed different, like with this kind. And like the men, they were still kind of like hunting each other, but I didn't feel like it was kind of like a I guess like a cowboy and Indians type western. I guess it was almost, to me, like it was more of like it seemed like a war type feel movie, like I guess like The Patriot or like something like that. How it was almost like they were kind of like hunting, like with the militia and like things like that. It didn't feel like it was a western type thing to me. And normally with westerns, also like the weather, most of the time, from the ones that I've seen anyway, and the ones that we've watched so far, it's usually like hot or sunset sweating, or it's in the desert, or it's like kind of something like that. This, like just the details in how much like the cold, like brutal frigid temperatures, like the streams, and like how it showed, like even the picture that's on there right now, how it showed like ice in his beard when he came out of the stream that one time, and like his nose was running, and it was like it was already frozen. The part with the horse, oh my gosh, that part was crazy. And I kind of looked at that part, I might be wrong, but I kind of looked at that part too, like maybe he was doing that maybe for 2 reasons, like one, to keep warm, and then maybe for protection also. I don't know if he was trying to like where he was out in the open. I don't know if it was maybe for a little bit of protection, like inside of there. I don't know if that was right or not, but I did know, like, the warmth is what I was thinking too. But it was, to me, it was almost like it was a complete contrast with the other westerns that we've watched too. I don't know who said that before, but I agree. I agree with that completely.
Stacy, to go on about the horse thing, back in the olden days, they actually used, if you were in that type of situation, extreme weather, they told you to cut open the stomach, take out all the insides to help protect you from the outside weather and the elements, to keep the body warmth in, keep you warm and stuff. So I thought that was a really cool scene. They actually had that part in there.
Yeah, I had never seen that, like, in movies. So that part, like, the whole time I was sitting there, like, through some of these parts, like with the bear, and then doing this with the horse, and then, just some of the parts where he was almost, like, where they tried to bury him. Just so many parts, I was just sitting there kind of like on edge, like, oh my goodness, waiting to see, like, what was going to happen or what he was going to do.
Yeah, I think you said some good stuff there, Stacy. Particularly with the setting. This, you don't really ever see too many movies filmed in this like time period. Like, I think Taylor said earlier it was supposed to be the 1820s in Missouri, but it feels to me like this is a movie that's like even in like the 1700s or something. Right, just because you have the French out there, like doing the fur trades and things like that. Because back in the colonial America, you had the French. The French had most of the Midwest, right? Even up in like Michigan and places. They had that area because they made huge money off the fur trade. So that surprised me that the movie was supposed to be in the 1820s because it felt like it was in the 16 or even 1700s to me. But yeah, I mean, it's completely different. It's this man, as she said, with the theme, right? It's this man versus nature story. So the revenge kind of takes a backdrop almost in this movie. That's part of the conflict, but the greater conflict is nature for sure here. Taylor said earlier too that he actually did eat that raw meat. He actually ate the live fish too. I know that while they were making the movie. Remember the scene where he eats the fish raw? And he did that too.
Yeah, I know DiCaprio said that he never goes that deep into a role again after like the sickness and stuff that happened during the filming and after.
He must have really wanted that Oscar.
Well, just think about all the big movies he's been in over time. Titanic, Wolf of Wall Street. What was that one, Gilbert Grape, right? That one movie really early in his career. What's Eating Gilbert Grape? I think that's the one he was in. He was in a bunch of Tarantino's movies, like Django.
Yeah. I think he was in one, which I thought it was pretty disturbing for him, but like Basketball Diaries, I think was the name of it or something.
I love The Departed, it's a great one.
I have The Departed, great mobster movie. We're doing Martin Scorsese's other great mobster movie in here, Goodfellas.
It's one of my top 3 favorites.
Goodfellas.
Yeah, I like it better than The Godfather, actually. I'm probably one of the only people.
That's a bold claim, Brennan. That's a bold claim. He was in the Great Gatsby movie as well, Leonardo was. So very, very prolific guy. He's supposed to play Theodore Roosevelt in an upcoming biopic. That will be interesting.
He's in another Scorsese movie too with the dude from Friday Night Lights that's been blowing up the last few years.
Yeah, those two are a good pairing with each other. But yeah, I mean, like I said a second ago, this sort of French, sort of Midwest French colony type stuff, you don't really see it in movies too much. So that's an interesting historical period that the movie puts us in. I think it was you, Stacy. You said you were wondering if you would even classify this as a Western. I do just simply because so much of Westerns are always about the landscapes and whatnot. You really get a lot of nature in this movie and all its like majesty. One thing to say about nature in this movie, like it's terrible, but it's beautiful at the same time, right? This Inarito gives us some breathtaking shots of like these different mountains and the rivers and the lakes. Like some of them are pretty breathtaking. I don't know if some of you guys noticed a certain scene in the movie where you were like, wow, that's really pretty. Right. But that's one reason why I like this movie so much. And it even kind of gives us so much nature.
Which I do like wintertime just because like my birthday's in December. So I usually, I always like winter. I like, to see like the first snowfall. I think it's really peaceful. Like seeing the snowfall. I liked the shots. It was kind of like when the camera angle would be like so low to like the forest on the ground, and it would look up so high at the trees, and then you could see like the snow falling down like that, looking up at the sky. I really liked those angles. And then it was almost like there wasn't very many props at all in the movie, like like their costumes and then the horses and stuff, and then like whatever they had to go along with. But even like they were only on that ship or that boat like like kind of at the beginning, and then like their camp or something. But it was like the scenery or their surrounding, the background. It was like that was like kind of like the prop of the movie, because I mean everything, all the attention to like the detail of how cold and how like frigidly cold that it was kind of like the attention to detail, and was kind of like used as the prop.
Yeah, that your comment there, Stacy, makes me look at Taylor's last question there. Says, discuss the use of the camera in the film. The lens of the camera admitted its presence in an almost fourth wall breaking manner. Why do you think the director let the camera get foggy / hold water drops and blood?
I think that because I mean, so much through the movie, there was so much like attention to detail. It almost made you feel like it made you feel cold. Like, I mean, even the way he would respond or he would react to like either being in the water or being out at night or being beside the fire, or even when he was in so much pain, like when he would cry out and he was in so much pain, like they just did a really good job, kind of like portraying like being there and the cold itself. And like when I saw that, because like breathing so heavily and so hard, and then you see that fog up, like it was like it almost made you feel like you were like right there, you know what I mean, like right there with it. That's what I thought when I watched it.
The rest of you guys pretty much agree with Stacy on that last question here.
Yeah, I agree. I think what Stacey said was pretty spot on.
Yeah, I think you said it well there, Stacy. Like you can kind of feel the cold entering your bones, right? Just from even the camera work in the movie. I remember when I saw this movie in the theaters, I remember it was like there was too much air conditioning in the theater that day when I watched this movie. So like between the movie's effect plus the too much air conditioning, and I was like, oh, the whole time. You can stop your share now there if you want, Taylor. You can rest easy there.
Okay.
So very good job, Taylor. Very good job. Yeah. So what else is there to say about this movie? We haven't really talked about the Native Americans in the movie to this point yet. One thing to mention about Westerns, of course, is how they've always depicted Native Americans. Like if you go back and look, we didn't watch any Westerns with Native Americans in them up till now. But if you go back and watch like the old John Ford Westerns of like the 50s and 60s with John Wayne, oftentimes they would have Native American actors, but sometimes you had white guys playing Native American characters back in the older days. This whole motif of cowboys versus Indians and stuff, right? That's part of our pop culture. We even had a debate about it in the recent times with even like sports media, right? Because you had the Washington Redskin team, he got rid of that name. The Cleveland Indians got rid of their name. So we have a lot of that kind of stuff now, but a lot of that's showing. A lot of this goes back to the idea that, especially Westerns, have always painted Native Americans as what's called like native savages, right? This is the noble savage. And if you study American lit, this is an idea that goes way back. This is actually really relevant to our area because one of the first great noble savage passages in literature comes from Thomas Jefferson, who was writing about Chief Logan. Right. So Thomas Jefferson's writings on Chief Logan is actually one of the first really good descriptions of like a noble savage type character. It's supposed to be like these Native Americans, they don't have any technology, right? They're backwards, but they're noble, right? They have stoic senses of character, right? They're like ancient Romans or something. So that's oftentimes how the natives have been portrayed in various media. This is a good time to give you this lesson. Let me actually show you the famous commercial that was on TV that's kind of about this. I don't think the Revenant, it's my opinion, I don't think the Revenant does this. We can talk about how it depicts natives, but this is this old native noble savage commercial from the 70s. Let me show this to you. I love this subject and I don't get to talk about it much because I don't get to teach American Lit much. So here we go. Let me show you this commercial. My computer freeze. Uh-oh. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, is the video playing?
No, it just said it was loading.
Okay, My computer froze. Let me try it again. Okay, can you see
There
the
we go. Yeah.
Yeah, here's this noble savage sort of thing.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it.
What'd you guys think of that commercial? What's your thoughts?
Very 80s, 90s.
Very definitely has that video quality to it, right? I think it was made in the 70s. I think that commercial came out in the 70s.
I was going to say, it reminds me of the video quality of the old sexual harassment videos we used to have to watch every year in school.
I know exactly what you're talking about, Timmy.
The sexual harassment videos.
What would you guys say is a commercial is pretty racist, right? How would you guys say that commercial is racist? If at all.
It's well, I don't know. I would agree that it's kind of one-sided there because I mean it kind of shows him and he's traveling by boat, so he's not like polluting the air with a car. And then it shows him pulling up to the shore and it's covered in garbage. And he walks up and it's like a highway or freeway or something, tons of cars, and they're just like throwing bags of garbage out. But it kind of leads you to believe that it's just I guess just white people throwing out garbage. And what did he say, that people started it, people can end it or something? So I mean it does kind of look like it's one-sided, like you know, they're putting the blame all on, it's not the Indians at all, it's the, you know, it's just, so I would say that it kind of looks like it's one-sided.
Right. Yeah, it's just kind of like reverse racism almost, right? Like you're trying to make the Indian character look so good that the character almost becomes a caricature, right? Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going with this. Like he's very noble, he's very stoic, right? The only emotion he shows is that little teardrop that goes down his eye, right? They're polluting their lands. We're the original owners of the land, right? This is that sort of noble savage idea in action. This idea, or go ahead.
Yeah, it's like a very stereotypical depiction of an Indian person. It's used in this.
Yeah, this goes way back over centuries. Today, when we're talking about things like sports teams, like I have a stake in this. I'm an Atlanta Braves fan, right? So you guys know that like the Braves and the Florida State Seminoles, right? They do the tomahawk chop, right? But even that kind of sports thing is oftentimes said, well, this is a noble savage. This is this old noble savage thing that we're talking about here.
I'm a Cleveland Indians fan, so at least y'all got to keep your name.
Yeah, you're a guardian now. So.
Never.
Of course, the Redskins changed their name to the football team, and now they're the Commanders. So I don't know which one of those two names is worse, right?
Yeah, my stepdad's a huge fan of them, so he wasn't very happy about the name change.
So here's the only logo that's ever going to matter right there.
Yeah, that's Chief Wahoo, right?
Yeah.
Was you a fan of them, Timmy, because of the movie Major League?
No. I was a big Albert Bell fan, so 93, 94. I don't even remember whenever. I was a fan of him before I ever watched that movie. I was little.
Yeah, you probably remember at Braves, the Indians World Series from the 90s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they lost to the Marlins too. I remember that one more.
Yeah, I remember back in 2016 when they played the Cubs. I was like, the Indians haven't ever won one either, so
I don't even want to talk about that.
But yeah, I mean, I showed you guys the traditional caricatures of Native Americans and stuff. Let's bring this back to the Revenant. How do you guys feel like they were handled here in this movie?
Matters which character's point of view you're gonna do. Like Tom Hardy's character, they're the typical Western like natives. Like they're no good. They're tree huggers and everything else. They're savages. But if you look on the point of view of DiCaprio's character, Glass, he's like they're noble people. They're good people. Yes, there's a few bad in the bunch, but they should be treated as equals. Just it matters what character point of view you're in, really.
Right. Yeah, I mean, with Fitzgerald, right, you can kind of understand why he has a hatred for them, right? Because they scalped them. So, I mean, probably almost anyone would have a hatred after something like that.
After what he did to Hawk, I wish they would have scalped him again.
Yeah, like you can understand his anger towards them, but he's also just like generalizing all of them as if all of them are bad people when that's not true at all. Not all of them were bad people. But due to the experiences he dealt with, he just said all of them are bad people.
I think this is the first time where I've never tried to like help the villain, like get him a redeeming quality. I'm like, nope, you hurt Hawk. I can never forgive you. You hurt my feelings there.
Yeah, he calls himself a god at one point, right? Because he's standing over Glass right before his death. He has a very high opinion of himself. Now, even before he kills Hawk, Jaden, he's saying racist things to him at the beginning of the movie too, right? Even before the bear scene.
I wasn't going to mention that just because he made me angry. But I was not forgiving. I was like, okay, different time period, Jaden. Different time period. How they talked. Then he killed Hawk. I was like, nope. All of that thoughts out the window. Bad person. I hope you get scalped. Hope you have a painful death. Hope you stub your toe in every corner type of situation.
I like how what's the one guy's name in the movie? Like the guy who's with him the whole time? He just kind of bullies him into submission.
Was it Bridger maybe or something
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
I was about to call him Weird Eyebrow Man because that's how I always refer to him. It's like I felt kind of bad for his character, I really did, because like he didn't know what happened to Hawk, and he was like pressured into like leaving Glass. So I'm like, oh, I kind of feel for you, but if you, it would be different if you knew about Hawk's death and you did that. Feel like I would have started made fun of you and your character, just how you look again. But you didn't know, and you're pressured, so I can forgive you, bud.
Yeah, I felt bad for his character too because he woke him up from his sleep and he later like figured it out because he was like, wait a minute, when he was talking, he was like, you said there were 20. And he was like, a dozen, 20, whatever, and because but he felt so bad. Like I felt bad for him because you could tell that, I mean, he wanted to, do the right thing. And then I don't know, but then he, kind of got pressured into leaving and to hurry up to come on. And so I felt bad for him, but I thought that DiCaprio's character Glass, I thought he was really smart there at the end where he took that like that tree and he kind of like stood it up on that guy because and he was like laying over the horse, and then the other guy when he shot him, he was like standing up. He had like that branch or something like in his coat to kind of stand him up. So I thought that I thought that part was pretty small because when I first saw that, I was like, no, I was like, he shot him. But then I realized later, that he had that branch in there. So that was pretty smart.
I think
Yeah,
Glass.
I was like, dang, that's a pretty anticlimactic ending. He just snaps him from miles away, and that's the end.
Yeah, because he went through like he fell at like the waterfall, and he went through like all these things and the bear attack, and he went through all this stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, no way he shot him.
I really admired Glass's character, especially after, he even told Captain Henry, I think it was his name. It's like it wasn't Bridger's fault. He really didn't know. Like deep down, I feel like I would have some resentment towards him. I am not as good as Glass. I'm just saying that if you left me in a pile of dirt, just left me your canister, I don't care. I would have kind of just like, yeah, let you take the fall for it. But he was a good man. He just like, no, he really didn't know. He's a lot better person than me. Let's just say that.
I was going to ask you guys too what you thought about the movie's music. Music played such an essential part in our movie the other day, right? Because spaghetti westerns are all about music, but the music in this is kind of subtle, right? Did any of you guys make a note of the soundtrack in this movie? So I'm guessing based on your silence, right? None of you guys really paid much attention to the music or just didn't notice it.
Yeah, no, I'll admit that I wasn't paying much attention to the music on this one. It didn't really
Yeah,
catch my attention on this one.
I agree. I don't even know if I remember any music. Maybe if I went back and then watched it again and paid attention, but I guess where so much was going on and it kind of like had me, kind of like gripped paying attention to, what was going on. I don't even remember music in this one.
Yeah, I was too invested into the story to remember a whole lot of the music.
Wasn't paying much to the music because I was too focused on watching Glass almost died 20 times.
I'm surprised infection didn't get him of all things, right?
He started to look like Frankenstein's monster for a bit. I was really surprised there.
Yeah, because like the one, which I don't know, it maybe didn't show that one Indian's name that he finds later on. But he even made the comment like your body is rotten or something, I think is what he said. And but like was it the gunpowder or what was it that he put like in his neck trying to keep it from I guess like the bleeding, trying to like cauterize it off maybe or something. And yeah, I was I was surprised that because of how many wounds and stuff that he had and how bad that everything was, and they were trying to stitch him up. I was surprised that it wasn't something worse.
Yeah, somehow I think I was more petrified, like the aftermath of the bear attack, them looking at all his scars and stuff. I think that kind of grossed me out more than the actual attack itself.
The gun like powder scene alone was just so like that is so intense. You don't see a lot of like gore or anything of that in movies anymore. That really surprised me. It was like, okay, it's like this. It's like, oh no, I know what you're doing. This is it's like, please don't catch your beard on fire in the process. This is going to end up so badly for you. That was so intense. I'm just like, I'm just passing out from just pain. Like, I was really surprised I even added that scene in there just because it was so intense.
Yeah, you guys said you didn't notice the music in the movie. I made a note of it this time. The movie's actually got some pretty good music. It's just very subtle. Most of the time it plays it whenever they're doing like these transitional shots, like in between the action, they're showing the nature or whatever. And oftentimes it's almost very morose sounding music, but it's just like very morose music that it keeps playing all throughout the movie, mostly when it's showing nature. So yeah, if you ever go back and revisit the film, that might be something you think about. Yeah, I'm glad we did this one. I don't think I've ever taught. Yeah, I haven't taught this movie before, so this one was a good time. I think this director will be one to pay attention to in the years to come, because he's already made two bona fide classics in Birdman and The Revenant. So he's definitely someone to keep your eye on in the future. I try to give you guys a little bit of that in this class, a little bit of directors who are they're the classics, and I'm also trying to give you who I think are the up and comers. This guy's definitely one of the up and comers, so he's somebody to pay attention to in the years ahead.
You always got a very strongly worded email earlier, just after me watching the movie, especially when I wasn't even finished with it. I was like, this guy, I love that. Loved the whole movie. The director, I'm definitely going to check out the rest of his movies and how this one worked out. But after Hawk's death, I was like, I'm going to message Dr. Yeager and I'm going to yell at him.
That would have been completely justified, Jaden. Completely justified. Yeah, so will things ever calm down in this course with these movies I picked? I don't know. I keep giving you guys these very intense movies. So yeah, Shane was as tame as it's going to get for you all, I believe. Because we're not even in horror movies yet, so we have a lot of hairy stuff yet to come. Let's see here. So we can go ahead and stop it there. Next week's movie, we're ending Westerns with the movie Logan. Okay. So in case you guys don't know, Logan is actually a comic book film. If you guys know anything about the X-Men, right? Logan is Wolverine's character. The guy with the spiky hands, right? But you don't really have to know a lot about the X-Men lore and all that stuff to understand the movie. Basically, the movie's premise is, something awful has happened with the future. So now he's kind of like on the run and retired. And so he's pretty much like this old type of gunslinger character in like this modern setting. So that's something to pay attention to as you watch. But in case you guys don't know anything about X-Men, right? There's mutants and people, right? That's the whole idea of the X-Men. And usually in X-Men movies, there's a lot of commentary about racism and stuff like that because of mutants. So Wolverine is a mutant. So I'm sure some of you guys probably know a lot about X-Men, some of you don't, but I don't think this movie requires a lot of knowledge about it. So that's why I was comfortable to give you this next movie. So
As the one presenting the movie, I'm glad to hear that, because I was kind of worried. Like, I haven't really watched a lot of the X-Men movies. I might need to have someone help me to like tell me what's going on if there is anything related to the other movies or.
Yeah, there's not really. This is a pretty standalone story, so I don't think you got a lot to worry about there, Matt.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah,
I'll
I'm usually
still someone though if they watched all the movies or watched most of them.
Yeah, I'm usually hesitant to assign comic book movies just for that reason, but yeah, I think we're safe here. So good. I'll look forward to your presentation, Matt. Then after that, we're going to move into science. I think science fiction is next. I'd have to check myself real quick here, but yeah, I think science fiction is after westerns. Is it? No, gangster movies are next. Yeah. Gangster movies are next.
Yeah, I was going to say Goodfellas is on the, I think it's the 10th.
Yeah, so we will enjoy some good gangster films. So very good. But like I said, you guys don't need to know a lot about X-Men to get what's going on. Maybe some of you guys are into X-Men and can bring some of that in next class. If some of you guys are really into that lore and stuff. But one thing I want to spoil you guys on before you watch it, in the movie, the characters are always watching the movie Shane, right? So I want you to especially think about that. Why do they keep watching Shane in this movie? So that's something to think about. I thought I would get cute and give you guys Shane and that one, right? Just so we could have that conversation, right? So Matt, that's definitely a discussion question. Add to your list. Right? What's up with that?
I'll take a mental note of that.
Yeah. So one other thing, guys, before I let you go, I'm going to type up essay questions for you tonight. And I'll try to get those posted by tomorrow. So what I will do is I will actually give you a little lecture along with the essay questions. I can tell you this, I will have the first essay due on the 25th. The 25th will be when it will be due. I'm not going to have you do it right before spring break or any of that. So I'm going to give you up till the 25th. That way you can enjoy your spring break without having to stress about it. Okay. But I will get you the prompt up probably by tomorrow, and then you'll have 3 weeks to write it. Okay. So in case you were wondering about that. And let me just real quickly write down everybody who was here, and then I'll let you guys head out for the day. We got Madison, Taylor, Sheena, Jaden, Shaylee, Matt, Stacy, Sonny, Brennan, Chelsea, and Jennifer. All right, guys, take it easy. We'll see you next week.